Veenu Keller and Chuck Hogan. We want to welcome you to Spanglish World Network and her network on Zingo TV channels 250 and 251. Zingo TV is a free app that can be downloaded on iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire and Fire Sticks, Roku and Roku Sticks, and all TVs 2016 and forward. Live Now is a show all about finding the synergy and body-minded spirit. Please join us as we tackle intense topics of conversation that will spur your mind, steer your soul, and give you some direction. With that said, we are excited to dive into tonight's topic with you.
Hey, Veenu, how you feeling tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you, Chuck?
I'm finally recovering from the jet lag. And, thank you, my sister. It was so beautiful to see you and Brian. And Julie and I had such an amazing time with you over in Dubai with the YBL family and just celebrating life and expanding ourselves, new experiences. I mean, between camels, you, dune riding on a sandboard, ATVing, falconers, Bedouin camp, Burj Khalifa, I go on and on and on, but it was just an epic adventure, and it was beautiful to see you guys there. Hope you had a great.
I was just talking about that today, and it kind of goes into our topic about, are we moving so fast, or when are we slowing down? And somebody asked me, they said, how was your trip in Dubai? And I said, here's what's beautiful, is that it's a group of us entrepreneurs that come together who forget to live life because we're so busy trying to create this big business, create an impact in the world, love what we do, that we get so caught up in it that we forget to slow down.
Yes.
And that's what we do. We all come together. Yes, we have moments of learning. We have great speakers, but it's that time that we get, that camaraderie, that we get together to say, hey, we're slowing down now to really enjoy our time together and experience this amazing place called Dubai, and then soon to be Italy, right? I mean, the adventures keep going on, but it's like, it gives us permission to say, hey, take a breath. Let's just enjoy this moment right now.
Yeah, it's this kind of strange paradox, right? Where you're going, okay, because we hear all these conflicting methodologies. It's like, ooh, okay, you're gaining momentum, so put the pedal to the metal. And then you look up and you're like going, okay, this is 2 years have gone by. And what happened?
Right.
What am I? And you think you're growing. And this is the crazier part. So one of the things that I love about what you just said is we have a team that curates these types of engagements. And when we're in sessions and stuff, it's intense. There's a lot going on. I mean, there's a lot of data. There's a lot of insights. Your brain, I smell smoke. You're processing. And then there's this moment where you're like, okay, and we're going to take a break and we're going to come back and we're going to meet you guys. And it's like, so you have a break for an hour and a half and you're like going, oh, slow down. What are you going to do? Oh, sit down, maybe go by the pool, have lunch with, another couple or 10 or 20 of your friends. And it's like the conversations, that downtime, that slowing down and connecting, priceless. Yeah. Well, you and I have been involved in environments where it's like, okay, for the next 4 days, it's boot camp. You're going 14 hours a day. You're going to push till you're uncomfortable. And it's like going, uh-huh. And then I walk away from the entire event going, well, what happened?
Yeah.
And then I'm actually asking even deeper questions like, what did I learn? What did I retain? Is there anything that can I walk away with something? And this is something I so appreciate about our time with you and Brian and everyone else. And that was these moments where we're just laughing and comparing notes and life. And it wasn't even about anything else other than just being together and connecting. And I go, oh, what a blessing. What an absolute blessing.
And we don't get to do that in our lives. Like, when do we do that in our lives? I was asking a client today is like, when do you show up for you? We're so busy showing up for other people in our life, like we're parents, we're entrepreneurs, we're part of organizations. It's everything going on. But when do you show up for you? And what does that even look like? Like, when are we allowing ourselves to slow down enough to say, what do I need in this moment now?
And is this real? Like, right? I mean, thank you for that, because that just kind of hit me. I was like going, holy smokes, where did that pop in from? And there's something about more is less more. No different than is speeding up better than slowing down. And I go, the answer is yes. Because here's the deal. I don't know about you, but I'll take ownership of this for me. I grew up with not wanting for much and yet wanting everything. So what do I mean by that? Well, we weren't wanting for food or shelter or clothing or shoes, but I didn't have 20 pairs of shoes. I had 3 pairs of shoes. I didn't have, McDonald's every day or eating out. We had home cooked meals. Why? Because my mother was adamant that this is nutritional cooking and you're going to eat healthy. And I go, thank God I had these inspirations and aspirations in my life. And then there's another side to it too, Veenu. And I was like going, then why did I want so much? Why did I have this desire, or what I felt like was a need to succeed, to expand beyond my current life condition? And people go, well, what would that look like? And I go, well, I remember my buddy Jeff Kriegel in high school. And when he got his license at 16, he got a brand new Volkswagen Rabbit, Wolfsburg edition, like pimped. I know, I'm showing my age. Thank you all. Love you. And I was riding a motorcycle at the time. And he's like, hey, at least you're not riding the short bus. He goes, Chuck, at least you were riding a motorcycle. And I go, dude, I'm riding a motorcycle 15 miles a day, back and forth. Julie and I were talking about this tonight. She goes, oh, but that must have been, independence and cool. And I go, I'm practicing basketball. Yeah, I know, all of 5'8". Shout out. And play basketball in high school. And practice ends at 7:30. And then I've got a 15-mile motorcycle ride home. And it wasn't exactly summer, okay? And it gets cold in Southern California. I know, contrary to popular belief, y'all don't know what you don't know. And so here's the deal. My buddy Jeff's lap of luxury, first car, riding this Volkswagen. He doesn't even know how to drive a stick. I had to teach him how to drive his own car. About 4 months later, I get a Volkswagen Beetle. But I'm like going, listen, I wasn't ungrateful. It's the car I wanted. But he's driving a brand new air conditioning, cruise control, all these things. Why do I share this with you? Because there's this need sometimes for us to desire things that we don't feel that we have, that we go, it would be nice to have. And I go, okay, cool.
I was going to say, when you're asking that question, how do we want for more, but happy with what we have? It's the influences around us. There was a phrase that we, you and I growing up in similar generation. It was keeping up with the Joneses, right? It's, oh, they got it, so then we got to get it. It's the comparison. It must be what everybody's doing, so I want to do it too, because of the fear of being left out, the fear of not being enough. And so we crave that.
Yes, and my parents sacrificed a lot to make sure that we went to private schools. So when we were young, they were like, no, you're not going to a public school. You're going to go to private school. We're going to pay the X hundred number of dollars a month. And at that time, that was quite a sum of money to go to all boys Catholic high school, my brother and I. Then my sister followed suit. And I don't share this out of hubris, more so out of a distinction. And the distinction was that I was going to school with a lot of wealthy kids.
Right.
And we were wealthy in love. We were wealthy in connection. We were wealthy in distinctions and productivity and all these other things. But it's like, man, we're going on a camping trip in a pop-up tent trailer to Pismo Beach, California, so we can have clam bakes and going up and down the coast. And then these guys are going to Florida to Disney World.
Right.
And it's like, oh, well, what'd you do this summer? I was like, oh man, I hung out with the family. Man, we went to Solvang, went to Carmel. We went, we worked for our food. I mean, like literally, like pitchfork and buckets, and then had a clam bake. And I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world now. I look back and go, oh my gosh, what a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant spark of influence from my parents. And they were going, oh, it's all we could afford at the time. And we wanted to have fun with you kids and show you that you can have fun anywhere, that you can live life everywhere. It doesn't have to be that you're standing in line at Space Mountain and you flew all the way to Florida to do that. She goes, we can go to Anaheim to do that. We live in Southern California. And then my dad reminded me, he goes, hey, and we go USO night, which means you don't wait in line for anything. Go on Space Mountain as many times as you want. Go on the Matterhorn. And so why do I share this? Perspective.
It is.
Perspective gives you that key. And it's like,
because I remember people talking about Disneyland all the time. I'm like, what's the big deal? Because I could, from the backyard, my backyard, I saw their fireworks every day. Right. So that's how close we were. And every,
you know what time it was. It's like, it's firework time. My teeth to go to bed.
You know, it is perspective. It is, you know, but then I also had a friend on my street that had a camper. And I thought I was so excited that they got to go camping, you know, because, and who would have known? It's because they really couldn't afford to do anything else. So that, again, you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. But to someone that had none of it, we're like, oh, a camper, where do they get to go? How exciting that they don't have to be in a little seat. And back then we didn't have to have seatbelts, right? So again, dating myself. And, but how great was that they get to drive in this big camper, you know, and sitting at a table while their dad's driving. Yeah. And so again, it's when now are we're so influenced to go. When I think about like-minded people, most like-minded people for me are go. As I'm like-minded people for other people, and they'd be like, oh yeah, Veenu's go. Because I am. I have go or stop.
The light switch only has.
There is no slow. There is no slow. I'm learning slow, right? I'm learning to slow down. I'm learning to ask myself what I need. You know, I came back from Dubai just a couple of days ago, as you said, and you were asking how I was. And, you know, jet lag is for real. And instead of pushing myself, I'm like, what do I need right now? You know what? I have nothing going on. I'm going to take this time. I'm going to lay down and just watch TV right now because I'm not really, I am tired, but I'm both focusing on staying awake. And so what can I do to keep my mind occupied where I'm not doing something like just listening to myself? I need to drink more water. I need to eat more nutrition right now, you know, more protein, just like listening to what I need. And I feel like that is me slowing down.
Yes. And taking care of oneself. You know, there's a cost. You and I talk about this a lot. And for anyone who's listened to us in the past, we talk about the one thing that has a constant burn rate, and that's time. Yeah. And I don't know where we got this interpretation that going faster bought us more time. Right? I mean, it's like, okay, wait a second. You're like, oh, so you're going on the most romantic, like, Vista car ride ever. You're in a convertible.
Right.
Is your goal to get there as fast as you can? Or is it to enjoy this beautiful sunset and this time together and the conversation? Because I know you well, and I would say that when you're engaged in great conversation with someone, you don't want it to end.
Right. You lose time.
You're not like, oh, we got a thing. And, you know, if we don't do this now, I'm like, oh, boy, that would be a really cruddy first impression on a date. Because you're like, right? Because it's all about the time. You're like, I don't want the time to end. I'm hanging on their every word. They seem like they're having a good time. And why this becomes so important is that in today's climate, we have these artificial benchmarks that have been set. And so we'll use one that you and I just discussed a little while ago. How many followers do you have? How many subscribers do you have? How many people are listening to you and your stuff? You know, how many people we have watching this show tonight? And the truth is, we don't know.
Right.
The truth is, we'd love to hear from y'all, because we don't know if this has value to you or if this is something that you're like going, hmm, what are these two freaky deakies doing over here having these conversations? Like going, well, doing the same thing you are, and that is praying that we actually get to help influence, connect, and guide some folks, so that way these everyday questions that come up actually help enrich our lives.
Right.
Please go ahead, my
just
sister.
bringing it back to our topic today is about slowing down. It's, what I love about our topics when we pick them is it makes me realize, am I doing it? And if I'm not, how can I do it better? And if I am doing it, what does that look like? Because I want to share with our audience here that, what happens when we get to burnout? What happens when we get to burnout is that we become this different personality. Some of us have wanted to escape. I'm sure you felt that way too. Like you just want to escape life and just like, I'm done. Like I just, you give up. I don't care anymore. I don't care what you think or you think. I don't care about that. I am leaving. Like I don't want to do life anymore. Some people stay in bed and can't get out of bed. Some people, their nutrition falls apart. They don't want to eat. It shows up in different behaviors when we have burned out. And if we're continuing to go, the only thing we're going to reach is burnout. And so, one of the things that Chuck and I, we were talking about is the slow down method. It doesn't mean you have to stop. Taking a nap during the day doesn't mean you stop. It means that you've listened to your body. So you're going to just slow it down a little bit. So you can, what do we say? Slow is fast, fast is slow, right? It's like, when do you need to slow it down so you can keep going? It's, when your car has no more gas and you're only on fumes, you're not going to get very far.
You pump the gas pedal. I mean, it's like going, hey, let's use up every last drop in the next 10 seconds. You bring up such a beautiful point, Veenu, and I love you for this. And that is, I had a flashback to when I was a kid and I was riding my bike. And because you'd pedal your bike where? Everywhere. And yet you'd coast in between. So it's like you'd be riding and then not even pedaling and then just coasting. And it's like, why? Because you have momentum.
So true.
You have momentum. You knew when to exert force and energy. In fact, you'd even stand up and pedal your bike and then sit back down and coast. But sometimes you hit a hill and it requires some effort till you get to the top of the hill. And then you're like, oh, look at the other side of this hill. And what's amazing about that is when you get to find yourself engaging at a level where now it feels like freedom.
Right.
And that's, I love what you said. It's like, I came back from this trip and I slowed down and I took time for myself. And I don't know where in my life it felt that success was tied to pushing all the time. And maybe it was when I got into corporate America and I started taking on positions of influence, where now you're managing territories and you're starting to expand beyond, and you're looking at things from the standpoint of, how do I create more influence? It's a book, how do you gain more friends and have more influence? And it's like, and do you work harder? I go, no. Sometimes it was the person who said the least, but was timely. And they were present. And you could really feel their intent of being there. And I found that I would never wanted to be the person that was the chatty Cathy in the room. Like, I didn't need to be that person. I love listening to people. And we got to experience that this week with some amazing speakers. I mean, like, they're gifted in their craft. And it's like, wow, I'm listening to some like pretty amazing content right now. And it's original stuff. Not all rehash. Some of it's theory, some of it's, observation, some of it is statistical. And I thought about you and I go, I've met a lot of people in my world that are elegant and eloquent speakers, but not always authentic. And it's something, and please own this, because I love you as my dear friend and my sister, you're someone that lives in that authenticity.
Thank
And
you.
I feel it's something that you and I've always resonated together with. I've never had to question who Veenu Keller is, ever. Not once in my life. We'll never have to. I know who you are. And for that, I'm grateful.
Thank you.
Why do I go there? You're welcome. I go there for a reason, and that is you would not be able to be that person had you not pushed and then learn how to slow down.
Right.
You can't deliver the messages the way that you do. You cannot create that level of content and engagement if you're just all over the place. It doesn't work. And yet we know some people who are all over the place, and it's like, okay, wow, you fling a lot of mud. I saw that there was a hole over here, so I spackled the one little hole. I didn't like start just flinging, you know, drywall compound everywhere and then go, oh, I filled all the holes. Some of it's going to stick, some won't.
It's with purpose, right? I've learned over the years to speak with purpose, not speak to be seen and heard, because I think a lot of us do. I think a lot of us grow up in that big fishbowl with a lot of fish, and we want to be seen. We want to be seen for our differences and for our similarities. And when we're not, we start to have that voice to say, I want to speak to just be heard. And now it's learning to speak for purpose. It's,
And it's interesting you say that, because that's actually new.
It's a slowdown. It's a slowdown to really figure out what is the purpose.
And in my life, I can tell you this. I lived a life of slowing down a lot. And what I mean by that is living in observation, always working behind the scenes, like hustling and working hard, but not from the front of the room, from the back of the room, from the middle of the room. And it wasn't until the last couple of years, really, that I found the front of the room. And people are like going, okay, that seems weird. Why would you explain it that way? Because it comes to exactly what you said, intention. The intention wasn't to hear my own voice. The intention, it was that there was a need, and that it created this opportunity to be clear and concise and deliver messaging in a way that it could actually help resonate with people. And that's the slowdown. It's not slowing down because you have to, because there's no peace in that. When you slow down when you have to, that's called exhaustion.
Yes.
That's adrenal fatigue. That's called
burnout.
I'm done. I pushed to the limit. When you slow down because you get to slow down, and you've elected to slow down, and you've scheduled slow down, I go, you're freaking brilliant. You're brilliant. Because now you're not you're living in reaction. You're actually living intentionally, to your point, with intent. And man, that's like really resonating with me right now. So thank you for that. Thank you.
And I think that also knowing when to speed up too. I work with a lot of kids, and one of the biggest complaints I hear from families and parents is that they feel like their kid isn't motivated. And I'm going to go back to what you said. When we're pedaling and pedaling, and then we're coasting because we've built up enough momentum. Are we teaching our kids to build up enough momentum? Are we building up enough momentum to slow down? Because if not, there's a time to move and go forward and go fast. There's a time to slow down, and sometimes there's a time to stop and reevaluate. And I think now, especially, that our kids, the Gen Z kids, have learned that our parents are going to be there for us to clean up our mess. We don't need to do it. I can't tell you how many clients I have that they do their schoolwork for their kids. That was unheard of. Like if I have Spanish cue cards that are due tomorrow, no one's doing those cue cards but me. And I see it, and I'm not judging. Like for my clients out there, like, oh my gosh, she's talking about me. First of all, no one knows who I'm talking about. So just take a breath. It's okay. Because it's not just this client. It's a lot a lot, right?
Yes.
And our parents, my clients say, I just don't know how to get them to do their work. And I said, well, doing their work for them, that's not going to get them to do their work. I mean, I'm going to tell you that, like, that is not the remedy. And they said,
Yeah, whose grade
right.
is it?
And I'm like, you've already done 6th grade. You've already done 8th grade. They need that time. And I said, here's what kids need to understand. Homework isn't to punish them. Homework isn't to say, you got to cram this so you could do better tomorrow. Homework is giving them skills they're going to need when they're an adult. It's preparing them, because I'm an entrepreneur. I know you're an entrepreneur and you also work for other people. We have projects all the time that are due for ourselves, for other companies. If we did not learn how to pace ourselves and research and put everything together, we wouldn't be successful as we are today in our lives. And it's the skills that we learned when we were kids. So parents are literally taking those skills away from their kids right now. And they're wondering why their kids aren't moving forward, why their kids are slow, not fast. So, as much as we talk about slow down, we need to also talk about when's the time to speed up.
Oh,
I'll let you unpack that. I know there was a lot.
No. Oh, I mean, my head's reeling. I mean, you probably smell the smoke over there. So I started noticing that there's been this pervasive stealing of opportunities.
Yeah.
And it's coming at this expense of, well, they have to get their homework done. And I'm like going, what happens if they don't?
Mm-hmm.
What happens if they don't?
Parents think it's a reflection on them. Like, you're a bad parent.
And I'm going, okay, so here's the deal. The truth is, yes. They're like, wait, what? I go, well, if you're doing it for them, then you're teaching them that this proxy lifestyle, that there will always be someone there to cover their butt. And I go, you know what the real world is? When you're 102 and they're 75, they may not have gotten the lesson. They're like, wait, what? I go, they may not have gotten the lesson. Because I know right now that there are 30-somethings, and I'm not judging, but they're still living at home. I go, oh, but they've had it hard. You don't know. And I'm like, you're right, I don't. Why? Because I've been living out of the house since I was 18 years old. Not because I had to, because I chose to.
Right. It's funny, because I told my boys, I said, you don't like the rules? You're 18, you can go. My kids at 18 left. I mean, it's a choice, but
and you're proud of them. They are beautiful,
they're doing it.
Handsome, grown men. They're making their way. They're starting their families. They're doing their thing. And, I love how proud you are of your boys, and rightfully so. They're scrappy. And there's not one way to success. You and I learned more than ever before that, hey, get ready, y'all, because you want to talk about speeding up and slowing down. You may not have to go to college ever, but you may go to vocational training, and you won't do it inside a building. You'll do it in virtual reality. Yeah. There is so much stuff changing at lightning pace right now. So when we start talking about speeding up, this world is spinning faster than you can possibly imagine. And to Veenu's point, unless you slow down, engage where you're living right now. Because think about this. If you're going downhill and you have momentum and you're on a bike, are you eating lunch at the same time? Are you on your phone at the same time? While eating lunch, going down the hill, under momentum, on a bike, on a hilly road. Try San Francisco, Nob Hill. Right. It's like, yeah. And the answer is no. But guess what? You're driving in your car while texting and doing your makeup. And I'm not judging. I'm just saying, because you look gorgeous. And here's the problem. Are you really present?
Yep.
This is when the accidents happen.
Well, I want to also say is that we're not allowing this generation to know natural consequences. When we were in Dubai, yes. I got a message from our kids' principal. They're like,
yeah, the kids' science fair project's due tomorrow, and your kids haven't done the experiment. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, and you signed a contract in January. You as the parent, and I'm thinking, what contract did I sign? Like in January, and this is like now February. We're going into March, and I'm in Dubai. It's 11:30 at night. Like I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And so I wrote back and I said, I guess they're just going to have to fail it. And they're like, well, I mean, you had all this time. Okay, yeah, and they're going to have a natural consequence. Like they also signed the contract apparently, and if they don't have the right science fair project because there's not a project, why didn't like back in the days, speaking of this, Chuck, back in the day when we did a science fair project, our teachers had to approve the subject, and if it wasn't approved, we had to get one to be approved. So now all of a sudden, what my kids were doing were not approved because there was no project, and I'm like, I'm in Dubai. That's all I kept saying. It's like,
when did teaching start by being by proxy?
Right.
This is, I mean,
I just said to them, I literally said, you know what? I'm going to cross my fingers and hope that they could figure it out. Thank God my beautiful friend Cindy was watching my kids, and she's like, I got this. And she's a grandma and she's raised kids. So she loved them through it. And she was the perfect one here. And Chuck, they probably still failed through it. And you know what? I looked at them and I'm like, and it's okay.
Honey, the difference is they learned through
this
one.
That's what I said.
This is because what's the outcome? As an educator, it's that they get lessons. They're called lessons, not modules. When we were growing up, they were called lessons. There's power in language, not, oh, in this module, I go, oh, why? Because that's a measurement.
What's the lesson you're going to live? And, and I told the kids, they're like, well, I don't know what I did on it. And I said, because they were really upset. And I'm like, I'm not upset. You know why they were upset? They were upset that they thought I was going to be upset. And I said, I'm not upset because you know what? You're going to learn something from this. You're going to gain wisdom out of this. Here's the wisdom I'm going to gain. The next time they send me a 10-page document, I'm going to print it out because literally I was reading it in an airport. And I'm like, oh, I have 2 months. I got this. 2 months goes by quickly, by the way. So my point is, my total point is that allowing our kids to be present in the moment, to have the natural consequences that arise from either doing it or not doing it.
And not feeling, and this is the part that pains me the most, and I'm just going to be very open and transparent about this. When they feel diminished, marginalized, minimalized, because now someone else is judging. So instead of saying, you know what, I get it. So let's identify what was challenging about this for you. For you. Because every single person's different. Our learning modalities are different. Our pace of learning is different. If not, our beautiful friend Harleen wouldn't have Montessori schools. And that is, meet them where they're at. And if they're advanced, great, expand them. If they're withdrawn and need some more assistance, then support them. The one thing you do not do is pull back love in any of it. In any of it. Because when they don't feel worthy, and this is where bullying and marginalization and self-harm and all these things, that's not something that's on the decline, by the way. For anyone who may be an administrator, not judging you, just asking you to listen, it's on the incline. Why? Because now there's such a fear that if you're an educator, that you're at risk of exposure to giving an opinion or sharing principles and values and connectivity. God bless Mrs. Brandt when I was in the 4th grade. That's all I got to say. You know why, Mrs. Brandt. And I'm sharing this because it took someone who believed in me, that I wasn't a broken little kid, that I could actually advance and grow.
Funny that you're 4th grade. My 4th grade teacher, Mrs. Slayback, was the same for me. As I was struggling with multiplication and I wasn't getting it. And I just wasn't. She pulled me aside. She goes, you're gonna learn this. Like, I'm gonna make sure that you learn this. And she did. Like, she believed in me. And it was so funny. 4th grade for you too. But thank God for teachers like that.
Amazing what a hug can do.
Right.
Amazing what a word of encouragement can do.
Right.
A warm hand on your shoulder, just saying, you got this. It's okay. Just calm down. And wasn't it funny? Slow down. Take a deep breath. Look at it again.
It's also what you just said, take a deep breath. Like, our teachers would slow us down. I remember my teacher, one of my favorite teachers, she's my 7th and 8th grade history teacher. And she would bring history alive. Like, she would, like, back in the day, our teachers would bring it alive. Like, she would bring artifacts in and stuff. And it was so interesting. And when I went to Egypt last year, I told her, I said, I'm going to Egypt because of you. And she's like, I've never been. It's my favorite place. I said, but that's why I'm going, because you brought it alive to me in 7th and 8th grade, that it has been a lifelong dream to be there. And I'm going to go be there now. All because she taught me that. And I still love her to this day. She was my favorite teacher because she saw something in me and she took the time with me, and there was not rushing. And that's just it. Back to our topics of, are we rushing? Are we slowing? Yes and yes.
Yes. There's no, so here's the deal. What do we use to measure?
Great.
And it's really, really simple. And we make life so crazy complicated. How are you feeling? Because your life is how you feel. If you feel like you're in overwhelm, then that means one of two things. One, that your life conditions and your expectations are not in alignment. The other thing that it can mean is that you are going so fast that you don't take any time to appreciate any of the blessings that you have around you.
Not being present.
That's it. It's you're living a proxy lifestyle, because now we're like going, well, isn't that the game? Isn't that what you're supposed to do in life? Isn't that what reality looks like? Because it's about how much money you make and what your ranking is, or could you go on this many trips a year? And I was reminded of something, and that is, there's a lot of people who don't go on vacation. There's a lot of people who will never go to Dubai.
I know. I didn't think I was going to be one of them, by the way.
No, I mean, listen, I was like going, Dubai? Cool. Have to write that on my bucket list so I can check it off. I mean, if people go, well, what? I like, oh, Maldives, Rwanda, Mykonos. I'm like going, okay, really, dude? Like, come on. Had you told the 18-year-old Chuck Hogan that, he'd be like, that sounds pretty epic. I'm just trying to get that pop-up trailer tent so I can go, take my family out to go get some clams in Pismo Beach. And so it was such a fond childhood memory. And now I look at that stuff and go, oh, I'd love to be able to do all that.
I know.
But I mean, honestly, Veenu, did you honestly think that you'd be, sandboarding and ATVing halfway across the world?
Skiing at a mall.
Yeah, I mean, sister, please.
I know.
But a decade ago, that wasn't even possible.
No.
A decade ago. And so this is where I say, so the speed up process is that technology is advancing that gives us the opportunity to be able to engage in these. And I'm going to remind you of something. If you were so freaking busy that you didn't take the time to engage in this, then shame on you.
Right.
Then shame on you.
It goes back to something that we talk about all the time, though, and it's the presence. Are we being present with the present?
And there's only one way to be present. And I'm sorry, I've looked. I've looked everywhere. You got to slow down. Because when the noise and the cacophony and the activity and the expectation and the scheduling and all these other things take over your life, it's called overwhelm. And to your point, my sister, and that is, when you get to that point, you have a shutoff valve in your body. And it's like, it's what I will call technically the screw you button. And it's like, hey, I can't go any faster. I can't do anymore. I don't have the capacity. And we get to a point, even with our own kids, our spouses, but even more so with ourselves. You're like going, yeah, what are you going to do about it? I'm like, I'm going to slow down.
Right.
I'm actually going to listen to my body.
And by doing so, we get different perspectives too, instead of like, and I know I go a lot back to the parenting, but that's my realm. It's our kids don't feel heard and understood because we're rushing to hear them. And I'm very guilty of that. Rushing to hear because I got something else I got to do. Okay, okay, okay. And then it's like, no. And they're like, how many times as parents say no, and then we turn back and say yes? Why do we turn back and say yes? Because when they come back for the 5th time and they give us the explanation, we actually listen. We're like, oh, yeah, you could do that. And they're so confused of like, well, why was it a no 4 other times and now it's a yes? Because I finally listened to you and I finally listened to what you were saying. I slowed down what I was doing in the moment to be present with what you were saying, give you an honest answer.
And you hit the nail on something, and that is the same love, connection, presence that we aspire for with our kids. Having 4 times previously not heard it, it's because we're not listening to ourselves either.
Yeah.
And this lesson, so this may sound like it's about everything else and everyone else. And as we all know, the change you wish to see in the world starts within you. And it was a really tough pill for me to swallow. I mean, as you know, Veenu, my story, and that was, there was a time in my life where putting in 100 hours a week was not an uncommon thing. And it got to a point where someone asked me, why are you working so hard all the time? And it was like, oh, because I want to be a better provider and a better husband and and it's like going, okay. And how's that working out? Oh, what do you mean? My kids don't suffer for anything. I go, oh, this dense guy over here, I'm giving them everything I thought they needed. And when the truth was, they just wanted me. And this is when I came up with my family and I deserve the best of me and not what's left of me. Because I was giving my best just to other people in the expectation that when I gave them my best, there'd be enough reciprocity, that I'd have enough left over and things and stuff that I could give to my family. And it was like, whoa. All right, Einstein. This is not the constant. This is not the theory of relativity. This is the theory of relativity is very simple. Be present. There is gravity. Yes. I'm standing here. Yes. What am I doing? Trying to run. When? All the time. Not a good strategy. Not a good strategy. So I honor you for listening to your body, because I didn't do that.
Yeah.
I did not. I came home and then left immediately for Miami and got home Friday night, went Saturday with Keely all day, and then drove to beautiful Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so, to your point,
thing is that if we're not going to listen to ourselves, how are we expecting anybody else to listen to us?
Especially our kids.
Correct.
Because you say this all the time, Veenu. We are the example that we're setting. And it's like, so to that point, the 4 times we didn't listen to the 1 time you did, and you're like going, wait a second. They go, but we've been saying the same thing the last 4 times. So what's the difference? Excuse me. The difference is very simple. It's us. It's us. And if we elect not to slow down, if we elect to continue to push, then we're going to get what we're willing to tolerate.
That's it. That's it. And I say that all the time to my kids. It's no one deserves anything, but everyone tolerates everything. We tolerate what we get, you know, and we can say, I'm not going to tolerate it. Yeah, you do, because it's still happening. If you weren't tolerating it, it wouldn't happen anymore. You know, it's knowing, again, it's that speed. You know, I think the biggest lesson I learned is that it doesn't have to be go, 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 or stop.
Right.
There is definitely a fluctuation in my speed each and every day. And I'm learning that. I'm learning that I don't have to be busy to feel successful
Right.
every minute of the day.
Well, and so without going into too much detail, you had a little tumble in Dubai
Yes.
in a vehicle. And I'm reminded of this, and I'm like, going, if you were going slow, would you have tumbled?
Well, we weren't going fast.
Right.
And my husband was having a little bit of fun.
Yes.
With a little bit of speed.
That,
Kind of topped
yes.
us over.
Yeah. And so, right. Well, no, and my point is that when we're having some fun sometimes too, and this is where, again, we get to catch ourselves. Because again, when I was riding my bike and I had that momentum and I'm going and I'm coasting, and then that's the term, I'm coasting. I go, you can be having fun in life and coasting, and all of a sudden a sharp turn comes. All of a sudden there's a sand dune. All of a sudden, I mean,
little thing sticks up on you
with a snow machine. And so it's like, why do I go there? Because things are going to happen. Mm-hmm. And yet, did it kill your fun? And you're like, nope. Like, does it make you rethink some stuff? Yep. Because it's like going, how do you know what the boundaries and limitations are if you don't push them? And this is part of being a human being. The difference is are you willing to dust yourself off and take the lesson and get back up? Because I guarantee you, I know you and Brian well, you'll be back in a ATV at some point in time doing something. It does not surprise me one iota. Why? Because that's who you are. You are a woman of adventure. You are a woman who is willing to accept variety. And you're willing to slow down enough and go, okay, I got to get an adjustment and a little massage.
Well, it reminds me of that quote from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, where he said something like, life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look once in a while, you might just miss it.
That couldn't have said it better myself.
Again, dating myself.
Well, listen, we quote all the one-liners in the world. Forrest Gump, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
That is,
and it's true. It really is true. I've eaten some nasty chocolate over the years. I didn't know what. I was like, it looks good.
Isn't that?
Hey, babe, you try it. It's like,
or that kid that you take a little bite of each of them and left.
Give it to Mikey. He'll eat it. He'll like
Mikey
it.
Likes everything. We're about ready to. Okay, I can't believe we're at time again, but yeah. So our point for all listeners all over the world tonight is, where do you need to speed up? And more importantly, where do you need to slow down?
And we'll remind you, you can use these pillars: faith, family, fitness, finance, fun, and fantasy. Ask yourself in each one of these areas of your life, first of all, what does that mean to you? Second of all, are you feeling full? All your life is in direct proportion to how you feel. If you're feeling wanting or longing in one or more of these areas, and I'm not saying that you have to be at 10s, from 1 to 10 in all these, but if you're not around a 5, wow, you may want to reconsider what's going on in your world and what's necessary for you in order to have the level of happiness that you really desire to experience and own. Because ultimately, it's your life. It's your life. You get to choose. And I'll say selfishly, being in the arms of someone I love and swinging in a hammock is not fast. But boy, I don't know if I'd trade it for anything else in the world.
Yeah.
You get to decide.
Each and every day, life is a choice, the choice that you make. to live your best life and what that looks like. And no one can define that but you. And don't be in a rush to live it.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm glad I chose you to be my dear friend and someone I adore, and I appreciate you very much, Veenu, on so many levels. Thank you for always being so consistent and so present. It really means the world to me.
Yes. And, I really just appreciate you, Chuck, and these topics that we get to bring on each and every week.
Yeah. We hope we're making a difference in the world, and this is just our small way of contributing. Thank you for everyone, with your insights and distinctions on the chat. It really means the world to us to know that there's people out there that are getting something from this and engaging.
Thank you. See y'all next week.
All the best.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Live Now with Veenu Keller and Chuck Hogan. Follow us on Instagram at Veenu Inspires and at Chuck Hogan Now. For more about Veenu, please visit VeenuInspires.com. And for Chuck, please check out YBLNow.com. This show can also be heard on Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out SpanglishWorld.ca for all your news and programming. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it.